Let's come back to, well, let's move on to the subject of farming. And well, we're going to start off with a little bit of video from the World Economic Forum. This is Jojo Mehta. Well, just have a listen to this.
Since we have to accelerate action and ambition from all sides, not only business, governments as well. And I think also there's a lot of individual change that we have to promote to just really get where we need to get. So you work on a very new concept called Ecocide. So many people don't understand what this legal definition is and what does it bring. So can you please explain a little bit to us, but also tell us, in your opinion, what has to change in current business and investment models to make sure this long-term thinking and ecological considerations are included in decisions and practices?
Absolutely. So, I mean, ecocide as a word is becoming better known around the world, and the concept is generally mass damage and destruction of nature. But legally speaking, what our organisation and other collaborators aim to do is to have this recognised legally as a serious crime. Because one of the issues that sort of pervades all of this discussion is that we have a kind of cultural, very ingrained habit of not taking damage to nature as seriously as we take damage to people and property. And that, I mean, if you're campaigning for human rights, at least you know mass murder, torture, all of these things are serious crimes. But there's no equivalent in the environmental space. Unlike an international crime like genocide that involves a specific intent, with ecocide, what we see is actually what people are trying to do, what businesses are trying to do, is make money, is farm, is fish, is do all of these things that are producing energy and so on as well. But what's missing is the awareness and the conscience around the side effects, around the collateral damage that happens with that. Mm-hmm. We're all talking a little bit as though, the changes that are happening and the shocks that are happening are inevitable. But actually, there are quite simple. For example, with ecocide, it's a really straightforward kind of intervention at the legal level that could actually start.
So, Charles, maybe I could just ask you, first of all, you're a farmer. Do you consider you're committing ecocide when you farm?
No. I'm not entirely sure where she's going with that, to be perfectly honest. It's like a lot of stuff that comes out of that forum. There's a lot of words with very little meaning. Perhaps she does go on to substantiate it. I think I know what she's trying to say, and to an extent, she has the kernel of a point, but not in the manner in which she imagines, I think. And a lot of the activities conducted by governments could be perhaps labelled as ecocide, whatever exactly she thinks she means by it. But I think her agenda is a very different one. So, I'd be interested to hear how she was countered, if at all, on that panel.
Well, indeed. So let's just consider this. So she obviously thinks that this image is ecocide. But my question is, does she consider that this image is ecocide? Now, Charles was talking about this last week, particularly with respect to the fact that the fire service is concerned that no risks assessments have been done about the fire risk from these types of large battery storage installations in the UK. Now, of course, why are these being installed? They're being installed because we are increasingly using wind turbines and solar power, which is intermittent energy. Solar obviously only works during the day. It doesn't work very well if it's particularly cloudy, and so on. So energy generation becomes increasingly intermittent, and so governments are looking for ways to store energy when energy is produced so that it can be used when it isn't being produced. But if we look at put this back on screen again and consider that this installation is for 100 megawatts. I think the one that Charles was talking about last week was a bit more than that. I think it was 250 megawatts. But nonetheless, we would need a couple of thousand of these in order to make up the requirement for the national grid. So, are we prepared to have these dotted around the landscape, and that's at that kind of scale? And is that an act of ecocide as far as she's concerned? And how does that fit in with the net zero policy? I wonder whether half of this stuff has been thought through, actually. But in the meantime, getting back onto farming itself, of course, the protests in Europe over net zero policy and Agenda 2030 continue. This is Poland, and this particular report saying that in Ranica, they are going to be protesting the policy of the farming policy of the European Union. The demonstration will take place in other places as well, but in fact right across Poland today. So here's the map showing the various locations where there are protests going on, not just in Poland. Of course, this originated in the Netherlands. It moved on to Germany. It's been going on in France for a very long time. So let's just have a look at what's going on in France at the moment, because it is quite incredible. French farmers do things in their own particular way, and maybe Vanessa will have something to say about this in a second, but they like spreading manure around the place, shall we call it, and so public buildings absolutely getting lots of manure. Quite incredible what's going on, but also the railway lines, as we'll see in a second. So they are determined to shut down transport links, to shut down civil municipal buildings and so on in this way. And in the meantime, in Ireland, the farmers getting together, they have set up an organisation called the Farmers Alliance, and this is now turning itself into a political party, so they're attempting to get involved in the politics of it as well. So farmers beginning to move forward with this stuff. But then we have this, because of course many people saying, well, how do we create our own food supplies and so on? Well, the University of Michigan has basically now produced a report telling us that we can't, because apparently food from urban agriculture has a carbon footprint 6 times larger than conventional produce, according to their study. And so they're saying that on average, food produced through urban agriculture emitted 0.42 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalents per serving, 6 times higher than the 0.07 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per serving for conventional grown produce. And the quote from this is that by assessing actual inputs and outputs on urban agricultural sites, we were able to assign climate change impacts on each serving of produce. So there you go. Charles, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on what I've just reported.
I suppose one has to wonder what the carbon output is from the production of such articles, of which there seems to be a complete profusion at the moment. But no, I don't think that's really something one can take particularly seriously.
Yeah, indeed. But so anyway,